Right. Good morning. I'm just having my cup of tea, and I thought I'd talk you through kind of a framework or an explanation, the way it comes out in my brain since healing burnout and hormonal issues that I've had for years, as well as healing kind of patterns and ways, behaviors, ways of being that kind of kept me stuck in self-sabotage or like limiting patterns in life that caused a lot of stress. You know, the way you want to do something, say you have a health issue and or period problems, and you want to do the things that you know you should do to make you feel better. And you're either doing them and like you get so far, but you can't really crack the code. Like you're like, why? Like I've put so much effort into this. Why isn't this working? Say dodgy periods or kind of recurrent burnout or mental patterns like that, your anxiety or your mindset. You're fine for a while, you start something new, and why do you always like rebound back to a certain way of being? And I hope what I share with you today can help explain like what you may be missing or the missing link in it, that I've discovered, because for years I was taking the actions or I knew what to do that like wasn't my issue, but sometimes like doing it because our brain is wired for safety and protection and not or sorry, survival, and not for like success. And you know, you may think you want the body of your dreams or the health of your dreams, but if your body and mind see doing new things or doing it a different way as a threat, it's going to just keep you stuck, you know, even if you're miserable. So, yeah, hopefully I can explain that to you. Okay. So, I've been like trying out my new whiteboard and also trying to figure out, I hope it isn't making loads of noise. I need to get it probably mounted or something, but hopefully this will work, because I feel like you need a visual for what I'm about to explain. And this is the basis of my courses in general, but particularly my 6 month kind of transformative program for women. It's called I Am Woman. And it's basically like that, peeling back the layers that aren't serving us, that we may have built up as protection over the years, but they're not serving us right now when we want the health that we want, or the career that we want, or the loving, connected relationships, because we can't expand if we're in survival mode, because it's kind of the opposite. Survival mode is very like contracted and your body wants to stay the same, and it's kind of using your excess energy and resources on keeping you alive instead of seeing you thrive and be happy. And it's not a, by the way, it's not your body's fault. Like your body is always trying to protect you. This is something, when I burnt out and I had every symptom, on this, got like skin issues, like hormonal acne. Every time I got my period, I have the lead up of like wicked PMS and mood swings and just wanting to throw my whole life out the window. And then the actual pain of that period and would just knock me out that month. I was just fatigued, low mood, like chronically anxious, and I couldn't, like, I knew the things to do and I was doing some of the things. I was like taking supplements and I was eating right and I was actually doing meditation. I was trying to rest. And yet it would only get me so far. Like I'd get a bit of energy back, and as soon as I tried to like resume normal life, it would put me back into like either freeze mode or like just chronic anxiety. And I was like, okay, like I can actually do the things, but I'm doing it like this is not how I want to be living. Like that, I don't want to have to take like 10 different supplements. I don't want to have to, like, one of my values is freedom, and that includes like for eating. Like I want to eat healthy and well because it makes me feel good, but then I also do want to eat things that I enjoy, that isn't going to like set me back for days or make me feel like a pile of shit, basically. And I was, you know, suspected all these like allergies and intolerances. I went to like gluten free for a while, and like although that kind of helped, in the moment, like as in, oh yeah, that feels better after that meal. But like long term, I was like, I know it's not like the gluten. And this is where it comes down to, it was like who I was being. I was like, I can't help but be anxious and stressed about things and overthink things, kind of going to the extremes, like as in trying all the things and like having to do it perfectly, and then being so burned out from like doing that, that going back and just like completely like not nourishing myself, like skipping meals and having no energy. It was kind of like this pattern, which then it meant that I could never heal fully. I'd get so far and then rebound. And that actual pattern is a nervous system pattern. It's like your nervous system can only expand as far as you feel safe. So me like doing more and trying to hold more and nourish myself more when I was in like survival mode and shutdown was like I could get so far, I could stretch so far, but without, and this is the thing, without also managing not only my mind and my actions, but also the emotions and the somatic or body work and energetic work. I was neglecting that bit. Well, I wasn't neglecting it because I didn't know that was a thing until I started to like see my patterns and reached out, and I got like a mentor, and I actually did a load of courses before I even got a mentor. I was trying to do it like that way because I'm usually quite self-motivated to learn, but I did need, and this is a thing in healing, you do actually need connection. You need, you're like relearning to like rewire and repattern your body that you were probably most likely never taught. So it takes a bit of like support and practice and guidance, because even now, say my weak link is kind of the emotional side of things, that I will overthink things and try to logically think my way out. And you can't think your way out of nervous system dysregulation, because that is in your body. Somatic is another word for like body, and it's basically you need to somatically feel the energy, feel your feelings, and like move through that and process those. And you can't process them in your mind. And mindset and therapy and reframing and limiting beliefs, they all have their place, because we have different aspects of our health: the physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, and I would even say like spiritual and soul as well. They're all the aspects of health. So in imbalances in any one of those, it starts to seep into the other ones when it truly gets out of it. And emotions were one, like I didn't know. I thought like just crying or like acting, was, or even like naming the emotion, that's still like a logical thing. Logically think it out, which wasn't helping. Anyway, let's get into the framework so that you understand better what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've got my little, I've written it out just so I don't go blank on this, but I'm gonna like take my time. It's already in my head, I know it is. So here you are, right? You're listening to me have maybe some, I've written these on health issues, relationship, maybe just conflict that constantly comes up in your relationship due to like the reactivity, or you may, if you haven't done any mindset work, but maybe you realize it's not actually about the situation, because sometimes when you're calm and collected, you wouldn't react to those things. So you feel like bad afterwards for reacting. Or with your child, that sometimes you can be fine, and then other times it's like, why the hell did I react like that? So like just emotional dysregulation, health issues like gut issues, digestive issues, hormonal period problems, mood swings, cortisol imbalance, if you're aware of that. And if you know a bit more about nervous system dysregulation, on my YouTube I've got loads on that, but you might recognize that you are in fight or flight a lot of the time. I actually did a clear out the other day, and I was reading some of my journals, and I didn't realize that I already knew like before. Like I know so much about the nervous system now. I really like understand it, like I said, in my mind, but also in my body. Whereas then it was, I must have known it like logically, because I wrote in the diary, like I just can't get out of fight or flight. Like I felt like I was stuck. I would just wake up with anxiety, not even having thought a thought or anything, just like baseline anxious and fearful and just like dread. And sometimes I knew why, and sometimes I didn't know why. I was just like, that was just my baseline. Because our nervous system gets stuck in these states when we've practiced it for so long. And then we actually get like addicted to it. So even when your world, like everything in your world, like family life, work isn't too bad, like things are fine, and yet you're just sitting there with this like baseline level of dread, and like knowing you feel like the cortisol running through your body, and you're just like, I just can't switch it off. And like I said, you may try the things, and they like it just keeps coming back. And that is because we actually get quite addicted to these, because like I said, our body and minds deem the familiar safe and the unfamiliar unsafe. Even if the unfamiliar is like a better life and feeling good and doing things that make us feel good, the way you're like, I know that going on this walk or doing this exercise or eating this way makes me feel really good. And you do it for a while, and then you like rebound back to, you're like, why am I back in this old pattern where I'm struggling to do it? I'm in freeze mode, I'm procrastinating. When I know that makes me feel good, I know it's the way forward, but here I am back in survival mode, like hunkering down. And that is your nervous system going back to its safety zone. And to get out of that, we actually just need to practice being, whether that's visual in your body, in your mind, or in tiny actions towards the thing that you want. You have to practice experiencing that. And while you're doing that, you make your body feel safe in that. So I was talking to a client the other day about that certain foods like set off reactions in their body. And we were kind of talking about like, is this all the time though? Or is it only sometimes? And it would be mostly times where they're probably already stressed, or they're in a more stressful environment, like say being in a social setting where they're not as comfortable, or where they just don't trust what's in the food, like somebody else has made it and then they're already fearing it before they eat it. Yet they know that at home, when they have control and they know what they're eating, that they won't react. They could probably eat the same thing and it won't cause the same reaction. So that isn't necessarily the food, it's your body and then mind telling your digestive system, this isn't safe, before you even eat it. So of course you're going to get more symptoms. Your body is going to treat it as such, because your body and mind doesn't have its own consciousness. It just does what you say it, whether you're aware of that or not, because there's consciously, we're only aware of like 5%. So we can be like, no, this food is fine. No, I love this food. No, really, it's fine. I'll eat it. It'll be fine. Whereas in the back, if you actually haven't done the somatic processing and like visualizing and making yourself feel safe to eat that food, and not guilty or overthinking it or fearing it or restricting it, like basically any of those fear-based responses, then your body will just treat it as such. So it's like, whether it's true or not, whether you actually have a true intolerance to it or not, is irrelevant if you're actually just thinking that it's not safe before you even put it in your body. Anyway, here we are. We've got our hormonal acne. Oh, here we go. Or if you have PCOS, that's your beard. Yeah. So PCOS, like health, period. Maybe you're in a job and you're like miserable, but you feel stuck. What else? Oh, relationships. And relationships aren't just, yeah, there's like your husband and your child and stuff. It's also your relationship with yourself? Like, how do you talk to yourself like day to day? You hating on yourself? Are you really critical and controlling of yourself? Because however you are to you, that is who you'll be to others, even if you think you're putting on, sometimes we can put on masks for other people because we see it as so you can put on like the people pleaser or the perfectionist or the overachiever to kind of hide how you really feel inside about yourself. Your self-worth could be actually really low, but you put on your mask of overachieving and doing everything perfectly and making everyone happy. And this mask, high, like you put all your worth in these things that you do, which is a very non-stable place to put it, is out here in the world instead of in here. Our self-worth like shouldn't depend on other people. Our self-confidence shouldn't depend on our external environment, but we kind of let other people and situations in our life dictate how we feel about ourselves. And if somebody, whether even directly, like with me, mine was my own mind, like as in people, I would just make my own assumptions, and we'll get to that. That was based on my past experiences or what I thought kept me safe. I would project or protect by assuming, say, in a social setting, like that people don't like you, or wondering what they're thinking or judging and things like that, and then trying to cover up that insecurity by just being as perfect as possible. Like, just don't offend anyone, just like be funny, look good, like just don't give people things to say. Whereas you see that is like leaky energy, like whereas all your energy is going out there instead of holding your energy in yourself. And you may think these are all different scenarios, but that leaky energy could be going to healing your hormones or healing your gut, or stop pumping cortisol through your body. If your energy was actually in you instead of giving it out to everyone and everything, and wondering what people are thinking, if you're doing enough, should you give more, feeling guilty, like it's all your energies going out, and all that energy going out is not basically healing your body or running the processes in your body that you're meant to do. So that's why we end up with the health issues. And what this also does is leave us chronically in like, firstly, probably fight or flight. Fight or flight for a long time will eventually lead to freeze, which will eventually lead to burnout. When you've got no more energy to give, your body will be like, okay, we need to stop. We need to shut down. Like, we've got nothing more to give, and we go into shutdown. So that's your nervous system states. God almighty, never mind. Anyway, so here we are with our issues, and of course then there's the, like obviously I said, anxiety it's taking over me, and just feeling like depressed and just low, like you just, like you can give for a while, and then you need to like bed rot and isolate, and like you just can't even cope with anything, and you just feel awful about that. So basically, like our nervous system states, so the state that we're in then dictates our thoughts, emotions, actions, or behaviors, and just our general like energy. I don't just mean energy like to do the workout or not. I mean energy, like high vibe, low vibe, just like how good you feel, or do you feel like a suppression of energy every day? If you wake up, you feel like, yeah, can't wait for the day, jump out of bed, like as in, versus when you're feeling like depressed, you don't even want to get out of the bed, like you just don't have energy to give, versus when you're anxious, you've got all this energy, but it's like chaotic in your body. It's like energy's released, but it has nowhere to go because you can't even think clearly, and then you use it usually if you're in that state, you will use it for these protections and projections because you're in that state of like nothing's safe. So I have to either be productive, prove myself, I can't rest, I need to keep moving because the world isn't safe, and I need to like do something to make the inside of me feel calm, when it should actually be the other way around. We will act and be productive and do things that are in our highest good and other people's highest good when we're coming from a grounded place, if that makes sense. Like when you're calm, collected, you get like the best ideas, you can actually move with more groundedness. It might be like slower, but it's more effective. Like running a business, that is like one thing why I had to, if I was probably working a 9 to 5 and working for someone else, I probably could have stopped ages ago with my personal development, but it wouldn't have led to like long-term fulfillment, when this is what I feel like I should be doing, is like what I learned and helped me, I want other people to learn and embody so that it can help them, and then that'll help our kids, because you're modeling and giving off that vibration of feeling whole and secure and confident, and you trust yourself, and then your kids will learn that too. Is how it works, instead of passing down intergenerational trauma of like scarcity and overgiving and people pleasing and just overachieving and needing to be productive to prove our worth, when our worth is actually inherent, but we have been taught that it's not, that it's in the external, how much money we have, our career, how good we look, what our clothes are like, how much filler we can get put in our face, how unwrinkly our forehead is, in our ability to attract somebody, or I don't know. Yeah, just how much we have, when it's not, it's like really our worth is like how much whole you feel inside, that inside you don't actually need those external things. Once you feel that way inside, you will just naturally attract those things, because somebody who feels whole and confident and has a load of self-worth, they're not going to sit on the couch anyway. People kind of think, but what about my drive? Or I saw one the other day online. It was like, I'm afraid to go see a therapist because what if I'm not funny anymore? That like people are funny because they're like self-deprecating or because of the trauma. But as somebody who considers themselves funny sometimes, I don't know what you think, but it doesn't matter what you think, because that's what I think. That's called self-validation. I've also been learning that one. But yeah, the more your core self, or the more your authentic self you are, the actual the more probably weird and witty and funny you actually will be, because you'll actually be free to kind of say more what you want and things like that, and it's just not what people are expecting, and you will be more free to speak truth and speak up and express yourself and be seen and heard. Yeah, sometimes I would find around that I'm funniest around my closest friends, but not so much in like settings where I feel a bit more uncomfortable. But imagine being that self that you are with your closest friends, who you think totally get you, that you can be that in every setting. The more you can peel back the layers of that, like who you think you have to be, or who you think you have to be in certain situations, with this. So the actions, the reason that, okay, we feel like this, we have these issues, and we might take some actions. So we take the supplements. That looks like a poo, but that's a tablet. That's a supplement. And the food, and we eat healthy food, like an avocado. There you go. And we're, doing the movement. And this is another thing, is like, is it aligned movement, or is it because people told you outside yourself, like, this is what you're meant to do to be in this shape? Now, I will say there are actually, in my program, I Am Woman, I do kind of teach you like the basic principles of eating and lifestyle and movement for women's bodies. Yeah, for the last like ever. we've kind of forgot how women's bodies work, and they were kind of just giving us information based on men, but then less food, or just, let's not even go into like the 90s, and was it the 2000s as well, where it was just like eat as little as possible, fat is the devil. Even though like our hormones are like made of fat, so it would explain a lot about how our hormonal health is going and fertility and things like that, because if we don't actually have fat to make it. But obviously we're coming out of that now. There's a bit more freedom of information, but you do have to be like discerning about the information. The way I teach it is like, I will give you what helped me and what I know from being a clinical nutritionist, a functional nutritionist, especially in the women's space, and especially when it comes to, like I said, perfectionist, overachiever, like just being like ambitious and wanting to do things, but the way in which I was doing them was causing my body to like retaliate. And like I said, that was perfect or protection. Like it was trying to slow me down. It was like giving me these signals that like the way you're going about things, like the energy in which you're doing things is kind of like not good for our body. It's kind of stressful because you're in your wounded masculine basically energy, and you're trying to like always produce and always achieve and always keep going, when women are cyclical, and we have summer, spring, autumn, winter, and we are just totally skipping winter a lot of the time, and probably autumn as well, that we just don't allow ourselves to have the rest. And even when we stop physically, like go on a holiday, that's when people's like bodies tend to like get sick then, because they finally rest, and it's like, oh, thank God. By the way, we've got all this like build up of stuff to deal with, so now we have to get sick and like really hunker down and like hibernate, since we've allotted ourselves this time. So we're taking the actions, and then we'll feel a little bit better. But then, but then we find like we need more and more protocols, like more and more strict with our diet and things like that to actually function well. You're probably thinking like, oh, like in my early 20s or whatever, like I felt fine, and yet I didn't do all this stuff with the eating and things like that. Or, I didn't need to be as strict, but it's because there's such a buildup of dysregulation in our bodies now. We're like struggling to keep up with it, even when we're eating well and doing the right things and taking 10 supplements. And then like some of us as well, you might be doing mindset work and going to therapy, which is really good for like reframing your thoughts and just giving a new perspective of life, because basically we take on everyone's conditioning and stuff like between 2 and 7, and then usually our personality is like pretty set at 12 years old, based on our society, our culture, our school, our parents' beliefs. We're just like little sponges. But underneath all that, there is a core self as well. There's like our authentic self. Like I said, the way one person is just like has a natural affinity for things, and just the way everyone's personalities are a bit different. And we tend to like cover that up. Some of the things are good. Don't walk out in front of the moving car. Yes, very handy belief to have, very handy. And certain things keep us safe, and certain things like a kind of align with our authentic self. And then there's a lot of things that don't, that have been passed down generation. I'm just good. Like Jeff has this one about the fork and knife on the plate, and that it's good manners. And he's literally like, oh, put your fork and knife together when you're finished, so that they know that you're finished. And I was just never like, that was like never a thing to me before he started saying it. Like I was like, oh, okay, didn't know this was a thing. And so I like don't do it. And to him, because of his beliefs, because of his conditioning, he's like, you're so rude. And I was like, am I, or like were we just brought up in like two different environments, and that was not a criteria of mine? And likewise, my mom was like so OCD, like about cleaning and things like that, that like around the house, like I would be like, oh, why are you leaving things that like is stressing me out when you like leave stuff around the place? Which I'm like deconditioning, because we can rewrite. But me then thinking that he's like inconsiderate and, you know, messy and stuff for leaving things around when, you know, it's like, is that true? Or that's just the way he was brought up. Like he wasn't, there was nobody chasing him around the house to put things away, you know, so that just wasn't in his. And obviously there's like a million more things I could probably say, and they're only small, you know, they're only small things, but they all build up. And then not to mention, like I said, the fact that we place our worth in, you know, at some point in our childhood or something, we achieved something, we got praised for it, and we thought, like, oh, this is the way to get love. Like it's always, as a child, like want love and obviously want our needs met. That's physical, emotional, mental need and connection. And when we think that connection is going to be taken away, we start developing these protections and projections and these masks and roles that we play. To keep us safe. So, like I said, if you thought at any one point that perhaps love would be taken away, or you would be at a primal level abandoned, okay, because we're naturally a tribal like species, and long ago in hunter-gatherer days, if we were abandoned, that was basically death, because you needed people to survive. It's like chances of survival very low out in the wilderness on your own. I would say one of the everyone's, you know, you have so many things like fear of being seen, fear of being heard, fear of success, fear of failure. I feel like they all lead back to like fear of being abandoned, because that meant death, which is always like fear of death, basically. And when we're trying to do new things, our brains are like, that is death, because I don't know what's going to happen with that. Or if it's something that may challenge other people's approval of us, then that could lead to being abandoned, which equals death and not love. Like also, you know, feeling unlovable and things like that. That's why if you've got shame or guilt and stuff, it's like the reason we have those is because it makes us fear being abandoned or not loved. Well, if we're not loved, then we will be abandoned. And then we will die. But that's not true these days. That's not true. We can actually, you know, we've built up a world where we actually have a good amount of safety. Like if you're in your house, like very little is going to come and just like kill you. So most of our fears and things like that are, they're just our head and our body. So thoughts. So you may have gone to like I said, therapy. So therapy or just mindset, you know, done limiting belief work, which again is only covering, and if it is therapy sometimes and mindset, sometimes these are surface level, okay? So the missing piece is that 5%, our actions and like our conscious thoughts is only 5% of the result that you're going to get, which I think if you're somebody who has tried something over and over and, you know, self-sabotage or reach the same blocks or can only get so far, and then you rebound back into old patterns, behaviors, way of thinking, you'll agree, yeah, you can feel like 5% better, maybe a bit more, because there will be other things that come into it that are happening, because our subconscious, which we're not aware of consciously without trying, is 95%, and that is made up of energy stored in your body. So it's not taking into account like actually processing the emotions that come up when you are doing the thing and the energy in which you're doing the thing. So when I burnt out and then I took okay, I didn't choose to take like my body, I couldn't function. So I needed to take time off. I needed to rest. and I learned all about functional nutrition and things like that. And for my mind, like I was doing some meditation and breath work and stuff in the mornings just to feel calmer. Wasn't really exploring as much beyond that, but I was trying to like reframe my thoughts and my actions. Yes, I was eating better. I was eating as I should be when you're, because eating for health and maintenance is different from for eating for healing. Okay, there are differences there. And I was eating for healing and taking all the supplements. And yeah, I even did a like manifestation for health course, and it would help. But then I would try to do things again. I would try to like live my life again. And I was in severe like freeze. I would go into like freeze and procrastination and just overwhelm. Like I just, yeah, it was fine when I was just doing these things and nurturing myself, but it's like I couldn't get back to, I was like, couldn't get back to where I was. And also my period, because your hormones do take, when you start nourishing yourself and getting your body in a healing state, it takes 3 to 6 months for your hormones to come back online. But if you're not processing your emotions and your nervous system is still dysregulated, then you are in fact not in healing mode. This is the thing. You can be taking the actions, you can be trying to reframe your thoughts. That'll make you feel a little bit better. But if you can't get your body out of fight or flight or freeze, or basically a survival state, then your body is still not using the stuff you're putting in it for healing. It's still using it for survival. It's still sending it down the cortisol pathway, and it's still using your energy on like anxiety, on being hyper vigilant. And that was the thing. I was like taking the time off resting, but my mind and in my body and my emotions, which were driving, were like fearful. Oh my God, I shouldn't be taking this time off. When am I going to feel like myself again? When can I be productive again? Oh my God, how did this like happen to me? Feeling guilty, feeling like shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, what am I doing? Basically, all these like negative thoughts, but it was like my body state, so that your state dictates your story. So things in my environment were triggering my nervous system to then, I was having emotions, and then the emotions and the energy I was in were dictating the thoughts, I think. And then that was like reinforcing everything. And then the thoughts I thought, negative thoughts, would then influence the things I was doing, either by me like not doing them or doing them in a way that was in a survival way, instead of like eating because I was like, this food is yummy and it's nourishing me and I'm like healing. This is great. I was eating it being like, oh, I hope this fix me so I can get out and like do all the things again. Like I just need to fix myself. Like how have I got, like how has my health got to here? Which is like not the mindset you want to be in, which is the same with, when you're doing exercise, if you've got body goals, if you're doing the exercise and the Exorcist. I don't know where that came from. The exercise, and you're thinking like, oh, like I hate my body, like, oh, I'm doing this like out of hate and because I have to, and because if not, it's bad. Whereas if you're doing it out of like love for yourself and being like, this is like what my body needs. I enjoy the process of this. Like I enjoy this, and this is good for my body. And you actually enjoy the exercise, not picking ones again because people told you to, and you're intentional with it and not in a negative way. And you can be compassionate and loving towards your body, like even when it's not where you want it to be. That will get you so much further than like forcing and controlling it and criticizing it. And the way we talk to ourselves is just a reflection of how we perceived we were talked to, or and then that's been passed down for generations. Like you can't really blame one person. It's a whole women's thing. I could do another talk on that one. About how our mindsets have been shaped, over the years because of how women were like persecuted and suppressed and things like that. We were oppressed. How has our nervous system got here? And that is based on our past. on trauma, conditioning. And trauma is like not only like, it's not just big things, and it's not even things that you would like think are trauma, but trauma is basically just like not what happened to you, as Gabor Mate says, but how you perceived something to happen to you. And it can be like one big event that causes an emotional or energetic charge in your body that you don't know how to process. So we either suppress it, or it stays like chaotic. And that energy is in, it can't be created or destroyed. So if that energy isn't processed and kind of transmuted into something better or released, then it stays stuck in your body. And if it stays stuck in your body, then it has to go somewhere. So instead, it's like against the body, instead of like flowing through like our emotions, our energy in motion, and they have to like flow. But we really have been taught, some of us, that emotions are bad, and that can be obviously sadness and anger. And we weren't taught how to like actually process them and also feel safe. So the thing is, you have to process it and release the energy, and then bring your body back to regulation, because feeling the emotion is like a dysregulation, but temporary if you can process it. But if you can't process it, then that becomes like part of your body. And then say this energetic charge is like a wound, and every time something in your external triggers that wound, it releases like the same charge. And again, if we don't process it, it like gets stronger and stronger. So that's like with the, say, perfectionism thing, it's like you did something wrong and you felt really bad, but then you achieved something in some area of your life, you got praised for it, and you're like, oh, this is the way, like I'll cover up that wound of feeling like bad or like a failure, and I'll cover it up by never failing again. And achieving, like achieving lots. And you keep doing that. But anytime something threatens that wound, like you're about to fail at something. So this is why people like don't try new things. They don't like to try new things because they're afraid to fail. Or you're doing something and you do fail, that triggers the wound. And then you may like contract for a bit, but then you'll go back, you're like, oh, I know how to make this better. I'll just keep being perfect and overachieving some more. And instead of actually just processing the fact that like you were 5 and that one that is some school art project like you perceived that the teacher didn't like and you thought it was a failure. I don't know, this is how it starts, as that wound. And then, like I said, sometimes obviously traumas are like big traumas, and they're like logically we can understand why they would be traumatic, but the energetics of it all is the same. But even multiple little ones that, like I said, kind of irritate the same wound over and over again, that becomes like, you solidify then in your perfectionist and your overachieving tendencies, to the point where it is like detrimental for your body, for your health, for your relationships. Because if you're not overachieving and doing things, you get angry at yourself, and then you take that out on other people. You're usually the closest to you, which becomes like kids and your partner and things like that. It's like we can't stop though. We can't stop because this has kept us safe. Even though your body is screaming at you to stop, even though your relationships and like how you feel about yourself inside is like falling apart, you just can't stop. So it's about actually processing, reframing our limiting beliefs into more empowering beliefs, using like visualization and NLP and techniques like that, like hypnosis, to get into the subconscious thoughts and reframing those, seeing those from your 35-year-old self instead of your 5-year-old self, and being like, oh, like that wasn't a big deal. And that is the logical. So that doesn't, like, okay, we can see that now. Still, this inner child still lives in your body, in the somatic, in the emotions and the energy that are still stuck in your body. So although logically we'd be like, oh, you didn't fail, like it's fine, they're still feeling that feeling. So you also need to learn to process that feeling and the energy, which can require again, going into that emotion over and over, and then creating safety, like letting yourself feel that. So you bring the emotion up and you can feel it and you can release it, and then you can transmute it into like the lesson learned, or just neutralize it, just being like, it's safe to feel this feeling. It's safe to feel this feeling, and we're still fine afterwards. It's safe to feel our feelings and we're fine. And now we can go in and like visualize things in our life now that are, irritating this same wound. And we can, like I said, neutralize them by visualizing them and then feeling it in your body, and then making yourself feel safe with feeling that, and visualizing a new outcome as well. And where was I? Oh, yes. Sorry. The past. Yeah, like I said, trauma, conditioning, like intergenerational patterns, your culture, society, all these things that people just tell you are true, and we just believe them. We just believe it. We just believe them, even though it might not align with our core self. So if it's at odds with our authentic self, it's automatically making us unaligned. So it causes an imbalance in our bodies. So if we're forcing ourselves to do things just because these people said they should, which these things dictate our values, beliefs, and that dictates the thoughts that we think, and the thoughts that we think and the beliefs that we have and the values we have overall create our identity. And if our identity is based on what they told us or what we think we are based on this past stuff, then it means that if we can rewrite, see that this is getting messy. I don't even think you can see that. Anyway, if we can rewrite our story, if we can process our emotions and reprocess those experiences that we have and peel back the layers that is causing our bodies to feel unsafe or stopping us moving forward, and we can understand energy and how energy works, we can take different actions and behaviors. So we can make a new identity based on who we want to be and what we believe and our values, instead of what we were taught, which is keeping us sick, stuck, stressed, and sick, and relationships not connected. And basically, when we're doing everything that's like unaligned with what we want, then it's keeping our nervous system dysregulated. So yes, we can totally do, a vagus nerve for relaxation. We can do meditation, we can do breath work to bring us into the present moment and calm ourselves in the moment. But it's this past stuff that's going to make us less likely to get dysregulated in the first place. Because if we're only trying to like calm ourselves in the moment and not kind of practicing it and rewiring kind of what got us here, then every day is going to be like, at one stage I told my mentor, like, what am I meant to do, like meditate all day? I was like, obviously in fight or flight and dysregulation, getting angry, which she totally understood, like as in this I Am Woman, and we do group messenger, you totally bring like what's coming up for you that week, like issues that you have, and then I can talk you through what to use in the portal where you're learning, and from our workshops and our Q&As, like how to move through that. But again, not just like, oh, just do this now for this situation, but then it comes up again and again and again. No, because in the meantime, we're also doing breath work, somatic work, journaling, like inner child parts work, limiting belief work based on your past, to get those on board with, like, again, alignment with yourself, with your authentic self, what you want in life and who you really are, so that you're constantly not coming up against the hurdles, or you come up against them and you feel differently about it. This is one thing I noticed since doing this work, is like something that would have caused me to go into like shutdown or fight or flight, or it just absolutely like spiraling, a year or two ago, now can come up and I'll feel of like, like this is happening, but I'm like, oh no, I know what to do now, and I know what way to reframe this. Like, it doesn't get me, it doesn't set off my nervous system as much as it used to. And even if it does, I know I go through those practices. And obviously, like I said, the mentoring is like just invaluable because it taught me, it took it from practices to like how to implement it in my life and get the most out of it in particular scenarios. You know, if you have an argument with your partner or something happens at work and you're feeling really stressed then, and you're like in that, oh my God, I don't know how to calm down. Like, you bring that to the group and then we can talk through it. Or if you're, you know, you're like, I've been doing like the nutrition plan and my health is still flaring up. Like, how do I deal with this flare up without stressing out and making it worse? Things like that are like the day-to-day things. So that's in the messenger group. And then we've got live calls for Q&A and kind of workshop topics, and also monthly breath works to get into the subconscious and start releasing those ones that like we're not conscious of, that are dictating like 95% of our actions. Is getting into a state where your body feels safe enough to start bringing those up so we can kind of process them energetically and just transmute those from like lower energy to like more flow. Stagnant energy is like stagnant water. It gets all yucky and mucky when it's just sitting there, but when you start to make your body feel safe, it can flow again, and that flow of energy is healthy, whereas stagnant energy starts creating like muck, which creates those issues for us. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. There's more to it, but it's just like connecting the dots. Like, I hope that made some sense, and that you can see maybe in some of the things that you have been doing why you can only get so far with it. And it's not you, it's, you know, we just were never taught these things, you know, in school. They didn't teach us about energetics or emotions. Emotions are directly linked with our immune system. So everyone getting these like autoimmune issues or these sensitivities or these like skin flare-ups and gut issues, because your gut is also closely linked with your immune system. It's the build up of, if you're doing all the things, which a lot of my clients are, like they're quite like health conscious people driven, like they think they're doing all the things, and yet they've got all these issues, and they need to cut out more and more food and things like that because they're just getting sensitivities to everything. Whereas it's like this stuck emotions, like especially for me, that was like a missing piece, and that is something that I couldn't have learned from a book. Like the energetics and the emotions, like the somatic work, I couldn't have learned from a book because I tend to use like overthink. I tend to be up here too much, and because I had such probably a buildup of like unprocessed emotions and suppressed energy, or just that like I said, fight or flight chaotic energy, I basically like kind of dissociated from my body. So of course my body had to throw up the health symptoms to make be like shake me and be like, things are not right. And because I looked at emotions as bad, you know, I just thought they were like a symptom of it, when really they were like, deal with me, deal with me. That was like a key part in healing. And that is something I still need. It's not I've created like in my program, or the way like I compute this, I have like a little checklist of things that I can do because when you are dysregulated, it's hard to think clearly. So it's good to go through like the physical, the emotional, the mental, the energetic, like just looking at a little checklist and being like, okay, I have been doing that. I have been doing, oh, okay. We haven't kind of dealt with the emotion, because that is something I do tend to neglect. And having my own mentor, because I have one for like business who is also into this energetic and stuff, like I will be like, oh, I've come out against this block, like I'm feeling this way, or like I'm frustrated. And then she's like, did you feel the feeling? Did you feel the emotion that's going up? I was like, no, that didn't even occur to me. Because that is my kind of blind spot. So having a mentor was just invaluable. At least now, like she can let me see my blind side, but now I know how to do it through being mentored and shown like how to do that in my body. So I can go do that myself now, which I couldn't before how to do that either. So now, yeah, I'm really working on at the moment, actually recognizing, like looking at that checklist, mentally, but in the program I have it like physically as well, and kind of seeing like what haven't I done, or what do I need to, feeling into your body and feeling like what do I need to do right now. So I hope that was helpful. I'd love to have you, if this like resonated and you thought, oh my God, that that is me and that is my blind spot as well. And how do you do that? I want to know how to do that. Then you can join I Am Woman, like the 6-month program. Or if you were looking at more like the actions that you take, like for a woman's body, I do have some shorter courses, self-paced. So, or if you are in that burnout phase, because I would say I Am Woman, it's not for if you are completely burnt out. You have some groundwork to do. You are really in the healing. You need to nurture yourself. You need to eat for a body that is dysregulated and a body that is burnt out. Eating for healing and not maintenance is different. And if this is you, you can listen to my healing diet versus maintenance diet on the podcast. And I also have Revive, which is my program for burnout particularly, and just really creates that like healing environment, because I Am Woman is more like we are trying to change our patterns and peel back the layers, and that does require a bit of like, yeah, a bit of energy to spare. And whereas when I was burnt out, like I had no clarity, I was like brain foggy, I was like just so dysregulated that like even doing the small things for myself were hard. So yeah, I wouldn't be jumping into like a 6-month program if I'm there. But if you're somebody who has burnt out and you're getting better, but you're in that like, oh, where to from here? How do I do it differently this time so that I don't burn out? Like, how do I still achieve things that I want, but without like burning out and without compromising me and abandoning myself, so that I can achieve X, Y, Z or make so and so happy? So the I Am Woman program is really like a transformation of like your mindset, rewiring your body, processing those old emotions, and also learning like how to process emotions anyway, like new ones as they come up, and also seeing them differently, because emotions and energy are neutral, really, the way they make you feel. It's the meaning we give them. So if we're thinking being sad or down is bad, then that is like amplifying the issue, instead of just being able to like feel the feeling and be okay with that and know that it doesn't affect your worth or your value or make you a bad person for feeling this way. If we can just be neutral and surrender to it, we come out the other side and we've like up leveled, like, because you can't suppress one emotion without suppressing them all. So of course we want to be happy, fulfilled, and like driven, joy, peace, all this, but they're on the other side of feeling the lows. Because when you just, I read Gabor Mate the other day, and he said like suppressing emotions or energy is like putting a beach ball under the water. Say you're in a swimming pool and it's like, trying to keep that down. How much energy is that expending? And then looking at that or keeping it down, you're just using your energy to suppress all these emotions. And then we wonder why we have no energy for other things, or we have health symptoms and we can't heal and things like that. So I'll leave it there. I hope that was helpful. And if you are in a stage where you do feel like you're stuck and sick and that things will never get better, I hear you. That was me like a year ago, 2 years ago, like 2.5 years ago with the actual burnout. And then still like a year ago or so where I could get myself to a certain level of health, but just not feel the way I wanted to feel. Like it felt hard and like I had to do more things to maintain that level of health. I just can't believe, through the energetics and the emotions and aligned action, aligned with our feminine energy and our feminine bodies, and reframing obviously my thoughts and things like that, and while simultaneously dealing with past conditioning that was like in my body and energy stuck in my body, has just led to like more ease and flow. I can kind of trust myself more. I've got more energy. Like I can do the things to look after myself without it like taking all my energy. And I can also enjoy things that like are for fun or for, just eating because I like something instead of it being for health or to being productive, efficient. Like I can also have it for fun and things like that without it affecting like how I feel. Anyway, hope that was helpful. Talk to you guys next time. If there's anything I said that you'd like more on, I can create something specifically on that. So let me know.